Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Being a Good Communicator. My name is Charles. I am going to be your host for today. I hope you are all doing well and had a good week and are excited for the weekend as tomorrow is already Saturday. So, for those of you who are here with us live, before we continue into anything else, I would just like to ask you to please confirm that we have a good connection today. So, for those of you who are here and you hear me and you can see me all right, just please type something in the chat so I know. You can say hi, hello, yes, I can hear you. Even if you want, let me know. What are your plans this weekend? Does anyone have some holidays? Are you all staying at home? Me personally, I have a little holiday this weekend. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited for your plans as well. I see that we have a bunch of people here today. That's awesome to see you all. Hello, hello, hello. I would just like to take a few seconds to introduce myself. I see some familiar names that we have met in the past. So, for those of you who already know me, it's great to see you again. However, I would just like to take some time to introduce myself and talk a little bit about who I am to those of you who don't know me yet. As you know already, my name is Charles. I am one of the Tutlo tutors here on the platform, and I am one of the webinar hosts as well for the past few years. So it's a pleasure to meet you. A few fun facts to help you guys know a little bit more about me. Number one, I live in the Philippines. So I live on the other side of the world where it is always hot. And sometimes we have rain. Fun fact number two, I love animals. I have a dog. Her name is Candy. She is a little 10-year-old schnauzer, and I love her. She's my best friend. Fact number three, I love to work out and play sports. I've played sports since I was maybe 3 years old competitively, and I still do some now, and not as much. I'm getting into my 20s and I'm not working out as much, but I love sports still. So I hope that lets you know a little bit more about me, and it's just a pleasure to meet you today if this is our first time together. Before we get into anything else, I would just like to give you maybe a minute or two that if you need to grab a notebook, a snack, a coffee, a tea, whatever it is, feel free to go and do so, as I'm going to spend a little bit of time just explaining what we are going to be doing today so that everyone sort of understands what we will accomplish during our webinar. So, what are we doing today? All right, well, obviously, we're going to be talking about what a good communicator is. What all qualifies as being a good communicator? How can you tell if someone is really good at communicating or if someone is bad at it? So we'll make sure to understand the entire perspective of being a good communicator. At the end of the day, a good communicator is not just someone who speaks. There's a lot more to it. So we'll explore that a little bit at the start of our webinar. And of course, we all want to improve. We all have skills we are trying to develop. So we will also spend a little bit of time talking about how to improve our communication skills. Like I said, communication is a skill, and a lot of us are spending time trying to become better at what we already do, right? Whether it's a hobby, let's say you like working out, you're trying to improve that skill. When you're going ahead and maybe you love to learn languages, you're improving your language skills. Communication is just like any other thing. It's a skill. You can be good at it, you can be bad at it. So we want to make sure that we're good communicators. So we'll go over a little bit on how anyone, no matter if you're good or bad, on how to become better, because we can always become better communicators. And the last thing, of course, we're going to tie it all with a lot of vocabulary terms. Specifically today, we're going to focus on different qualities of good communicators with our vocabulary, but there will also be a couple other terms that we will touch on as well. So this is sort of our framework of our webinar today. I hope everything is explained clearly and you are excited to continue, as I am, because I love this topic. But before we get into anything else, just a couple quick reminders. First off, I would like to just remind you of how long we will be here. If this is your first time joining a webinar, I would just like to let you know that our webinars are around 30 minutes long. We began at about 6:30, so that means we will finish within the next 20 to 25 minutes, around that 7 p.m. mark. We might finish a little early or go a little over, but I will try to make sure we finish on time today. Along with that, our chat is going to be open during our webinar. There will be times where you can ask me to explain things more, participate in activities, and even ask questions during our Q&A later on today. All right, so I hope everything has been explained, everything is clear. Let's go ahead, dive into our topic by first explaining what a good communicator is. To explain it all, a good communicator is someone who conveys their message and is receptive to others. So, like I said, being a good communicator is not just how good you can speak. That's you developing your speaking skills. A good communicator is someone who can speak really well, but also be receptive or understanding to someone else or the people who they are talking to. Because communication is a two-way road. A lot of the times we think of communication as one way, how well I can speak. But when we talk about being a good communicator at its core, it's a two-way road. Yes, practice your speaking skills. Get better with the language you're learning or the language you already know. But it doesn't just go this way. Being a good communicator comes towards us as well. We have to go ahead and be receptive or understanding to others. Let me explain this a little bit more in depth. A good communicator is someone who conveys their message. Conveys simply means to communicate clearly. So a good communicator is someone who can communicate their message clearly. They are easy to understand. They speak well, they pronounce well, and they are overall a good speaker. They can convey their message. But a good communicator is someone who is also receptive to others. Someone who is receptive is someone who is able to listen to maybe new ideas and suggestions of other people. That is how you can understand being a good communicator. Because when we're talking about, again, being a good communicator, it's a two-way road. It is me being able to communicate with you, but it's also me being able to understand you. A lot of the times, a person might think that they are the best speaker in the world, so that means they're a good communicator. And I myself am guilty of this. But again, it goes both ways. If I can speak really well to you, but I can't listen to you, I am not a good communicator. I'm a good speaker. If I can listen well, but I don't really know how to speak well, then I'm a good listener, but a good communicator does both. Can speak really well and can listen. So what are some qualities or character traits a good communicator will have? Well, let's talk about them. First off, a good communicator could be explained as someone who is patient. A patient person is able to tolerate delays or problems without being annoyed. For example, maybe I am in a discussion with someone and we have different opinions on something. If I am a good communicator, I am patient. I am able to not become annoyed or angry at them because maybe we have different views. Or maybe I am trying to explain instructions to someone and they do not understand me. Well, I still have to be patient. I have to be able to tolerate it without becoming annoyed or angry at them. And that's what makes me a good communicator. If I am just speaking and speaking and speaking, maybe even raising my voice, well, it's hard for the other person to listen. It doesn't make me a patient person if I behave like that. I have to be a good communicator. I have to be patient when I am speaking. Beyond being patient, we also have to be honest. When you communicate well, you're honest. You're free of deceit. You tell the truth. You do not lie. You are someone who is able to sort of say what needs to be said. And that is huge. A lot of the times when you're going ahead and speaking, we might want to say things to, maybe sound nicer or say things to fit in. Well, yeah, sure, we can do that. That's not necessarily wrong. But when we're honest, it helps us become a better communicator because the other person knows I am telling the truth or I am not trying to hide something. I am an honest person. For example, this works really well with relationships, whether that's with friends, family, or a romantic relationship that you have. Communication is key, especially in those relationships that you have, right? And it goes beyond just business. Yes, business partners and your business relationships, when you are honest, it helps a lot. No matter what kind of relationship you have, family, friends, business, or romantic relationships, it helps the relationship become better because you are an honest person. It's able to have that trust. That relationship can have that trust, which again is really important in being a good communicator. And we talked a lot about obviously how we should behave with patience and being an honest person, but a good communicator is also someone who is knowledgeable on a topic, intelligent and well-informed. For example, if you go ahead and you major in business in your university studies and you graduate with some sort of business degree, you're going to be knowledgeable in business. If you are someone who studied media, you'll be good and knowledgeable in media. Or, for example, you spent 10 years working at your job, so you're going to be knowledgeable about the job that you have. And that is what makes a good communicator a good communicator, because what they say is full of knowledge. What they say is full of wisdom. So if I am communicating to someone, if I am speaking or conveying my message to a person and I am knowledgeable, it makes for a good conversation. It's just like the other way around. If you're listening to someone who is knowledgeable, you're interested in what they have to say, right? If someone is teaching you or passing you new information, it makes it an interesting conversation. So being knowledgeable is also a good thing to have. But beyond that, let's go back to some more ways we should behave or how we should act. It's important to also be courteous when you speak. Courteous just simply means you are polite, you're respectful, and you are considerate. If I am a person who is courteous, people will like me. Same thing if you notice someone is polite and someone is respectful and considerate, you're going to like them as well. Because when you respect someone, that other person will probably give you respect as well. It might not work all the time, right? There are some difficult people that we might encounter. But when I am a courteous communicator, when I am a courteous speaker, it's going to make the other person want to talk with me and probably reciprocate that respect, right? They'll give me respect because I am polite to them, I am respectful to them, and I am a considerate person. And beyond being courteous, a thing that relates to being polite and respectful and considerate is making sure you are a sensitive person as well. Sensitive is simply meaning that you have some delicate appreciation to another person's feeling. So let's say you're talking to one of your friends and you know that your friend had a really bad breakup recently. And normally you would make jokes to each other, right? But you know that that friend of yours has a broken heart. So you're going to be sensitive. You're not going to make jokes about that relationship or about being single or getting your heart broken because you know your friend still is hurting a little bit. Or let's say you know you have a family member that deals with trauma. Let's say the person you're with, your partner, went through a really bad relationship before you. And now she's happy or he is happy with you. But you have to be sensitive in the areas that they got hurt in before because you know that the trauma is still there. So that makes me a good communicator because I know what to say and what to avoid saying. So I am there for other people's feelings. I don't just say whatever because I want to be, again, like we said, courteous, or we can even say that you want to be a perceptive person when speaking. A perceptive person is someone who is able to gain understanding of someone or something. So let's say you're talking to that friend again who went through a very bad breakup and they are opening their heart to you. They're talking about their emotion. When you're perceptive, you know what to say. You're going to understand the situation. You're going to understand their feelings so you can encourage them, try to lift them up and be there for them. If you're not a perceptive person, if someone is talking to you about their emotions, you're just going to say, oh, don't worry about it. Get over it. Man up. It's not a big deal. But to that person, it is a big deal because they're hurt. So be perceptive. Or, for example, you're a boss and you have one of your workers who made a big mistake and they feel terrible and they are trying to fix it. Instead of making them feel less, help them. Yes, they messed up. There might be consequences for that or whatever it is, but be perceptive. Understand what that person is going through or what that situation is and what you should do and what you should not do. At the end of the day, all of this, being courteous, being sensitive, being perceptive, can all be wrapped up in a term that is maybe not popularly used, but it's really, really good. That term is tactful. When a person is tactful, that is a person with sensitivity dealing with difficult issues. Whether it's that friend going through a difficult breakup or it's that employee who made a big mistake, when you're tactful, you are good. You're sensitive dealing with these issues that are very, high volatile sometimes, right? Because yes, the easy response would be to ridicule someone for a mistake or to make fun of someone in a certain situation. But instead of doing that, just be tactful, be sensitive with a difficult issue. So these were all qualities that we can all sort of notice in a good communicator. So let's talk about how we can become better communicators. How can I become a better communicator? The first thing might not be the first thing that popped into your head. The first thing we'll talk about is to practice your listening skills. Remember, we said earlier, a good communicator is someone who can convey their message, speak clearly, but they are also receptive to what other people have to say. So remember, communication is a two-way road. Yes, practice your speaking. That's something we always do. But always practice your listening. Practice what we call active listening. Active listening is a way of listening and responding in a way that provides mutual understanding. A lot of the times we listen to respond, and that might not be the best thing. For example, if we are in an argument with a person, and that happens a lot, especially, like we said earlier, with relationships, you just listen for a little bit and then you interrupt them because they said something you didn't like, or because you can prove their point wrong, or because you can be the one who's right. And that's normal. Everyone does that. But a good communicator is someone who actively listens. Listen to what they have to say and understand in a way that provides understanding and respect. Maybe that person is wrong, but you can still say that in a nice way. You don't have to be mean about it. Practice your active listening. Listening to understand, not listening to respond. When you listen to understand, you are able to give a response that is understanding. When you listen to respond, you just listen until you can say something yourself. So that's tip number one, something to strive for. Number two is to go ahead and practice empathy. Because remember, communication is a two-way route, especially good communication. So practice your empathy. Empathy is simply the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. If someone is sad, if that friend is talking to me about a breakup, I have to practice my empathy. I have to understand and share their feelings, right? And be sad with them, right? Be there for them when they're sad. Or if I am that boss and my employee made a mistake, I should practice empathy. How would I feel if I was in his shoes? If I made this mistake and I am scared that my job is on the line or my boss is going to get mad at me. All right, Practice some empathy. What would be the best thing to do in this situation? And the last tip, simply don't speak for too long. And do your best to go ahead and be concise. Give a lot of information with as few words as possible. A lot of the times we think if we're saying things in a very fancy way and we are speaking and speaking and speaking, we're good communicators. Well, that might make you a good speaker, but that might not make you a good communicator. If you're a good communicator, you respect them and you speak as well, right? You let them talk and you go. So be concise. Say what you need to say in as short of a situation as possible. Give them the time to speak, because then you get to go ahead and practice your empathy and your active listening. So just remember those 3 tips for being a good communicator. Practice your listening skills, practice your empathy, and just practice not to speak too long. Do your best to be concise. There's a very famous quote by a man named Plato. He said, "Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something." A lot of the times we feel like we have to speak because I have to say something. I have to prove my point. And I am guilty of this a lot. It's happened. But a wise person is someone who speaks when I have something to say, when there's something good to say, or when there's something that I need to say. Someone who is not wise is just going to say something for the sake of saying something. And that is not a good listener. That is not a good speaker or a good communicator. So just remember that. That's a good quote to go off. And we still have a little bit of time. So what we're going to do now is we'll do a little bit of practicing. So we had a lot of vocabulary today with like qualities, right, of what a good communicator is like. And we had other vocabulary terms as well. So what we're going to do now is we'll just simply practice it. Up on your screen, there is currently an incomplete sentence, I should say. And I want you to help me complete the sentence with the correct word that we have learned today. This will help us practice what we've learned, and it helps in the long run. So this sentence says, being blank means I am careful when it comes to other people's feelings. And we have 2 qualities that we discussed today. Should we say being honest means I am careful when it comes to other people's feelings? Or should it be letter B? Being sensitive means I am careful when it comes to other people's feelings. Let me know in the chat. This is a great way, like I said, to practice what we learned and to know how to use it in certain sentences and situations. If you said sensitive, that is the correct answer. Because remember, sensitive is when I am delicate around certain situations and certain people's feelings. Very good. Let's try another one. A blank person is someone who is open to new ideas. Okay, we have a receptive person is someone who is open to new ideas, or letter B again, a knowledgeable person is someone who is open to new ideas. This one's interesting again. So let me know, what do you think the proper answer should be? Should we say receptive people are open to new ideas, or knowledgeable people are open to new ideas? What would you say is the best answer from what we've learned? Remember, a receptive person is someone who is open to new ideas. When I am receptive, I am willing to open up and discuss new ideas. If I'm knowledgeable, it means I know a lot. So maybe a knowledgeable person will be open to new ideas, but it will be best to say that a receptive person is someone who is open to those new ideas and, maybe willing to listen and discuss different opposing views. So I hope that was a fun little exercise. Before we move on to the last portion, let me give you all a few reminders of today's webinar. Remember how to spot a good communicator. Well, simple. A good communicator is someone who has good speaking and listening skills. Along with that, remember some of the qualities we should go ahead and strive for. Be patient, honest, knowledgeable, courteous, and tactful. And remember some of the traits to have. Go ahead. What are some traits I think I should go ahead and develop? Practice my active listening, practice my empathy, and practice being concise. I hope that was a fun webinar, and I know we had a lot of information that we talked about. So I want to make sure that everything is clear. So right now we have a little Q&A. If you have any questions at all about what we talked about today, just feel free to ask it in our chat. And of course, I will do my best to give you as good of an answer as I can. For those of you with no questions, that's okay as well. No worries. I would just like to ask what you thought of today's webinar. So there is currently a poll up on your screen that asks if you found today's webinar useful. I would love to hear from you if that you thought this was a useful topic, if you learned something, if you benefited from it. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that the topics we're doing and the lessons we're having are beneficial to you. So if this was something that helped you out, awesome. That was a mission accomplished for today. I don't see any questions yet, but we still have time, so feel free if you have something to ask. If not, just one last poll question before we finish. I simply am asking, would you consider joining us again for another webinar in the future? If you are interested, we do them from Monday to Friday along the afternoon and the evening times. And it was honestly an awesome experience to have you there today. And I hope to be able to see you again. But overall, I encourage you, practice what we've learned today. Not just vocabulary, but practice your skills that we've learned about and practice being a better communicator. All right, awesome. Thank you all for filling that out. I had a blast today, and I hope to see you again soon. But before we finish, just remember a quick reminder, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where we post content on there through our social media platforms with things like fun facts and learning videos. Until next time, everyone, thank you for joining. I hope to see you again soon. Until next time, have a good weekend. Stay safe, everyone, and goodbye for now.